Let's begin the show then by talking about the latest report that's come out by Plum, talking about the state of employee benefits in the country. Joining in right now is Abhishek Poddar. He's a co-founder and CEO at Plum to discuss some of those insights. And it's quite interesting actually to begin with and talking about how COVID has really been the UPI moment for insurance. Clearly, we've come a long way where now insurance is new age and modern. Wouldn't you agree, Abhishek?
Hi, Avanne. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I think COVID truly has been the UPI moment for insurance. I think the amount of awareness that got built in the last 2 years has been amazing. The penetration that has happened in the last 2 years has been amazing. But we recently did this report, this benchmarking report titled The State of Employee Benefits, wherein we evaluated 2,500 plus companies on how they set up their employee-sponsored health insurance plans, and some of the findings were quite stark. I think a lot of organizations are setting up employee insurance plans, but there is a lot to be done right now in terms of what is that right plan that organizations give.
Yes, indeed. So let's understand a little bit more as well in terms of how, there has been quite a bit of interesting and alarming data that's emerged from your report. 75% of organizations do not extend benefits to their employees' parents. This seems to be quite an alarming statistic.
It is, in fact, actually, and just to give context, our reasoning of doing this analysis and report is not to raise alarm bells, but guide organizations to think about how to increase the penetration and how to do the right thing for their employees. So as you mentioned, the current setup of insurance plans, if you look at across organizations, only 25% organization cover parents, roughly 60% organization cover spouse and children. So that means that a lot of population is still uncovered. The great part is actually that if you look at the more mature organizations or specifically the unicorns of India, there the penetration of insurance or the coverage of parents is much higher than the general trend, but it is alarming to see the 24%, 25% penetration of parental covers.
And term life insurance as well, that seems to be quite critical. But as per the Plum report's findings, it's often ignored by a lot of employers. Why do you think that is? And, why do you think it is important as well for companies to focus on term life insurance?
Yeah, so right now, as per our data, only 5% employers give term life insurance in the first place. Only 23% employers give group personal accident insurance. And this is one of the most important covers to think about when you're thinking about your employees. Term life insurance is essentially meant for your family members. How can your family members be supported in case of death of that employee? And especially given the Indian context where still a massive population is dependent on one single earning person, this coverage becomes much more important because one single death in the family can ruin the financial stability or the future of that family, and especially the children in the family. So I think that's the reason why this is very important. The good part is, again, as the organizations grow, as the organizations become more mature, that penetration increases. But if you look at the average, it is just 5% penetration today.
Now, when it comes to startups as well, what is the kind of data that's been culled out in comparison to some of the regular companies? Startups or unicorns actually are offering OPD. Have there been any other interesting statistics from the startups and the unicorns that you've observed in this insurance space?
Yeah, definitely. I think unicorns are, so right now this data is based on roughly 26 unicorns out of the 100 unicorns that exist in India. These are 26 unicorns that use Plum today. So we have those data points. I think the larger story is that the unicorns or the larger organizations are definitely going above and beyond in terms of setting up their health benefit plans. They are showing to the smaller organizations what is the right thing to be done. So if you look at the family coverage, if you look at the maternity coverage, specifically if I highlight the maternity coverage, almost 96% of the organizations offer maternity benefits, be it normal maternity or C-section benefit. A large portion of these organizations cover IVF as a benefit. They cover LGBTQ as the members. 16% of these organizations give OPD as a benefit. And that's a very critical benefit, right? If you look at our spend on healthcare in India, almost 65% of our healthcare spend goes on OPD. So it becomes much more important that whether your insurance covers for OPD. But if you compare the 16% organizations that are unicorns giving OPD coverage, if you compare it to the rest of the market, that number is just 2%, right? So if you look at most of the benefits, unicorns have gone above and beyond in terms of providing the right kind of cover and a more comprehensive cover.
What about, the maternity benefits that a company ought to be giving their employees? What is the general practice that has been done that should be adopted, and what is the general practice that is being adopted currently?
Yeah, so think of maternity benefits into three segments. Number one is your normal maternity. If you look at the tier one cities or the metros in India, the average spend these days is beyond 50K. We see most of the organizations that cover maternity, they're providing the adequate cover of roughly 50K, but only 56% of the organizations do provide a maternity benefit right now. If you look at the average, if you look at all organizations, that number definitely is 96% if you look at the unicorns. So that is one kind of benefit. The second kind of benefit is C-section coverage. If we look at the average cost of C-section in India, right now it's hovering anywhere between 75K to a 1 lakh and trending upwards. I think that's where there is deficit of cover right now. The median cover right now of organizations is roughly 55K compared to the 75K minimum cost that people incur. So I think that is one place where we need to see substantial improvement in terms of what organizations need to do for their employees. The third kind of benefit with respect to maternity is the IVF benefit, the infertility benefit. And this is becoming more and more important in the last 5 years, where the general trend has been that the larger population in India are having challenges with infertility and require some kind of infertility treatment. This is a benefit that most of the organizations never thought about 5 years ago, but I think it's becoming a very important benefit that all organizations need to think about. If we look at what percentage of organizations do this, this is in single-digit percentage right now, but I think that is where we truly need to move the needle.
Okay, fair enough. And just walk us through as well what your recommendations are for accident, for life insurance, etc., that employees should make sure that are included in their benefits.
So I would maybe step back and think of the larger recommendations that or the larger things that the people leaders, the CHROs, the CEOs should think about when they're setting up their insurance and benefits program. I would say 4 things. One is you should create an insurance program that is comprehensive in nature. It should include health cover. It should include accident cover. It should include life cover. Number 2 is when we think about insurance, make sure that we have sufficient coverage. We see a lot of organizations that is not even giving a 5 lakh cover for health insurance, which to us is the minimum cover, right? If you think of Ayushman Bharat, the government-sponsored scheme, they also cover 5 lakh health benefits. So why should your employer-sponsored, the corporate-sponsored benefits not have a 5 lakh cover? If you go below that, you're not covering the risk of your employees. So that is number 2. Number 3 is make sure that your policy is comprehensive in nature with respect to benefits. So think about maternity, IVF, LGBTQ cover. There are a lot more benefits to be thought about. So make sure that you're not setting up a insurance policy just for the sake of it, but you have read through every benefit that your organization needs, your employees needs. And the fourth part is make sure that we build a program that covers costs outside OPD. So think about wellness, think about telehealth, think about mental wellness, think about health checkups, right? These are the only way in which organizations can drive better health outcomes of their employees, their family members in the longer term. So make sure that you're not just purely thinking about IPD insurance, but going above and beyond. So those would be my 4 recommendations of thinking of insurance and health benefits.
All right. And just a quick word finally. The report mentions that employee benefits need to extend beyond healthcare, right? So it is critical that a benefit stack should include personal accident, term life, disability, anything else. And what would you believe should be the main check marks?
So it should definitely go beyond your insurance. I think the only way we can improve the overall health of our people is if we invest in both preventive care and the primary care programs. When we think of preventive care, think of mental and physical wellness, think of nutrition programs, think of gym membership programs. And when we think of primary care, think of teleconsultation or telehealth, right, which enables your employees to talk to a doctor within 5 to 10 minutes rather than postponing their doctor visit. Think of your OPD program that can cover diagnostics and pharmacies. So those would be our recommendations to people leaders when they are thinking about a more comprehensive cover that goes beyond just your pure play health insurance.
All right. It's been a pleasure, Abhishek, interacting with you, really putting into perspective how employers and employees need to be a lot more vigilant when it comes to their insurance plans. And very interesting data as well being thrown up in the report. Good to have you on board. Thanks so much for joining in on Startup Central.
Okay, thank you, Avanne.
Moving